Migrants granted asylum by the Trump administration is making its way to Washington. Thanks for joining us tonight on the news at 11. I'm Larry Miller. CBS News reporting that this group will land in the morning. The Trump administration says that these migrants are escaping race-based discrimination. It's a claim South Africa's government denies. Tonight, dozens of white South Africans are on a flight headed to Dulles International Airport. The plane is expected to land Monday morning. The migrants, known as Afrikaners, are descendants of Dutch colonists. They are the first group of migrants from South Africa granted asylum by the Trump administration. In February, President Trump signed this executive order directing the government to prioritize humanitarian relief, including admission and resettlement of Afrikaners, whom they say are victims of unjust racial discrimination. The administration claims Afrikaners are being discriminated against because of their race after South African President Cyril Ramaphosa signed a law this year allowing for private land to be seized by the government without compensation. It's known as expropriation without compensation. The law was drafted and signed as a means of addressing the country's land ownership disparity, where black South Africans, who make up 80% of the population, own less than 10% of all privately held land. The disparity, a result of apartheid-era policies. Deputy White House Chief of Staff Stephen Miller spoke to reporters Friday.
What's happening in South Africa fits the textbook definition of why the refugee program was created. This is persecution based on a protected characteristic, in this case race. So this is race-based persecution. The refugee program is not intended as a solution for global poverty, and historically it has been used that way. Wherever there's global poverty or wherever there's dysfunctional governments, then the U.S. refugee program comes in, swoops people up, relocates them to America.
South Africa's government denies the claims that Afrikaners are targets of discrimination or that the law unjustly confiscates land. U.S. aid to South Africa was also suspended by the Trump administration in protest. President Ramaphosa had this to say in response.
But we are not daunted to navigate our path through this world that constantly changes. We will not be deterred. We are, as South Africans, a resilient people, and we will not be bullied.
In 2022, I traveled to South Africa to speak with white farmers and black farmers about what was then the idea of a law that would allow the government to confiscate privately owned land. Here's what they told me during my trip.
I personally support the land expropriation without compensation. But however, my worry is, what do we do with the land we have currently?
I've paid for my land by working very hard for it. So I didn't inherit it. I've started with nothing. But I worked 10 hours a day for many, many years and pay for the land that I currently own.
Larry Miller, WUSA 9. Well, right now on WUSA9.com and streaming on WUSA 9 Plus, my special report called Land of Their Ancestors. I break down the issue of land expropriation without compensation in South Africa and its connection to the U.S. You also hear from